Hello and thanks for joining us. I'm Jennifer Ben Brahim, coming up on today's weekly music show on France 24.
Fallait faire des instrus tout le temps, tout le temps, tout le temps, tout le temps. Et c'est comme ça que j'ai appris, c'est comme ça que je me suis perfectionné. Ensuite, tu joues le beat et tu enregistres le sample en passe-passe en même temps.
Here's one of the rare musicians to unite the worlds of hip-hop and electro. French-Tunisian producer DJ Mehdi passed away in September 2011 after a tragic accident, and he was just 34 years old. Now, a 6-part docu-series weaves together archival footage, first-hand accounts from loved ones and musicians to form this rich tapestry that was his life. DJ Mehdi, Made in France, premiered at Cannes Series this year, which is one of the biggest television competitions in the world. It won Best Docu-Series. Now to tell us more, I'm joined in the studio by its director, Tibo de Longeville. Tibo, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, you're no stranger to making documentaries. You have over 10 documentary features under your belt, if I'm correct.
About.
Including your award-winning debut, which was Just for Kicks documentary about sneakers, hip-hop, and a corporate game. Now, this feels very different because it's deeply personal. DJ Mehdi was, in fact, one of your closest friends.
My best friend, actually.
Your best friend.
Yeah.
So how did you approach making this docu-series about someone who is so dear to you?
It's probably the hardest project I've ever had to do. Well, he was obviously a very dear friend. One of the things that worked in my favor was that I shot a lot of footage with him, kind of candidly, really, with no particular destination in mind. I mean, we both love music and love film, and he's actually the person that convinced me to, trust my ambitions and start filming. So I'm thankful to him because I'm now a director and have my own independent production company. So, there's a lot of personal elements that come into play in this document, which I hope works in its favor.
Oh, for sure.
I try to, as much as possible, distance myself and not put myself so much in the storytelling and in the picture to try to get somewhat of an objective perspective.
How did you two meet? How did you become best friends?
We actually met through Kerry James, which was the leader of his first group, Ideal J. Was, big time rapper and now actor, producer in France. But we were kids, basically. We were kids on the hip hop scene in Paris, which was already kind of a super niche environment. And we were underage. Mehdi and Kerry had a group as kid rappers, sort of like a crisscross. And they were professional musicians at age 15. And so I'm 3 years older than them. They're 15 years old, actually 14 years old when I met them, and I'm 17. And we're both in clubs and at the hip hop concerts where, it's early 90s, it's kind of rugged. And we're not allowed to be there, so we quickly connected and, became friends ever since.
Music documentaries, what is great about them is that they give a glimpse into some of our favourite artists, like we see in DJ Mehdi, Made in France, but we've seen the likes of ones about Amy Winehouse, Tina Turner, and Kanye West. In your opinion, what makes a good music documentary?
Well, great question. I'm a big fan of music documentaries, obviously any genre, so watch all of them. For me, it's actually, there's something about the icon, Bob Marley, you name it, the Beatles. There's something about understanding what they're about and their life story, and when it's a big superstar. In the case of Mehdi, the challenge is a bit different because the promise is we're going to tell you a story about someone you don't know. So, in a sense, it's kind of like a Sugar Man story where you have to go along and sort of learn who the person is about. And what in turn that dictated was that, and for me, that's really the part that I like most about music documentaries, is the music making, is the art of making it.
Now, DJ Mehdi, or Mehdi Favaris Essadi, grew up in the northwestern suburbs of Paris to a Tunisian mother and a French father. Now, he started his career by working with some of the leading names in French hip-hop, such as MC Solar and Kerry James. So here's a quick taste of him at work.
C'est Mehdi, justement, qui a vu un truc chez nous. Il s'est dit, ouais, il y a un truc à faire avec eux trois.
Personne ne croyait en nous. Parce qu'en fait, on avait une image loin du professionnalisme.
Eh, c'est une nouvelle caméra!
Mais lui, il avait capté.
Avec des actions comme celle-ci, je pense qu'on peut faire quelque chose pour les jeunes qui ont un certain talent comme celui-là.
Ils avaient un peu ce côté foufou où ils sont capables de rapper sur n'importe quoi. C'est ça que Mehdi a vu en eux. Cette recherche musicale, c'est ce qu'il propose à 113. Un son totalement différent qui démarre d'un sample carrément tordu. Un son un peu foufou qui leur ressemble en fait.
So that was a taste of DJ Mehdi, made in France. Now, Thibaut, in that clip, we can see Mehdi working with a rap collective 113 on a few of her albums, most notably Les Princes de la Ville, or the Princes of the Town. Now, that album was really quite a massive turning point for French hip-hop.
Yes, it was.
Winning
for the French culture landscape as a whole.
And you really get that in the documentary. You see this change, the shift in France. And it actually won 2 awards at the Victoire de la Musique, which is kind of equivalent to the Grammys, the French equivalent. What made DJ Mehdi so attractive to these hip-hop artists, to artists in general? What was his kind of magic touch that he brought to the studio?
I think the quest for originality is something that always went through his process very, very early on. In hip-hop in general, and in hip-hop out of the United States, there's always the reference of American hip-hop. So, DJ Premier, Dr. Dre, Kanye West, these massive, Pharrell, super producers that people, whoever create, or try to create new sounds, they have that reference. And some people, specifically in French hip-hop, a lot of them, in terms of music making, patterned themselves after certain producers, specifically in the early days. So if you look at like 90s hip hop anywhere in Europe, but specifically in France, that's been, really notorious creator of hip hop. The beats, the music pretty much sounds very similar. Mehdi's overall style and his point of view on that was try to be original and try to bring something to the table rather than, take all the inspiration and be like, yo, I could do music like Pharrell or, DJ Premier. And so that's really what took by storm French hip hop, French music, and really started to put was the starting point of him becoming an international artist.
Now, another defining moment of DJ Mehdi's career was joining Ed Banger Records.
Yes.
And that was the electro label founded by Pedro Winter, and it became really synonymous with the French touch movement.
Yep.
And, that included the likes of Justice and Daft Punk, as well as DJ Mehdi. Why did Ed Banger become such a cultural phenomenon, and what was Mehdi's role in it?
Well, the label was really the bearer of the torch that, was initiated by the first wave of the French touch movement, which really brought a lot of artists from France who really, blew up on the international stage. So that's Daft Punk and Cassius. And Ed Banger was, and Pedro Winter, the founder of the label, was the manager, actually, of the majority of these acts. And Ed Banger was really the second chapter that brought what we now call the French Touch 2.0, which was not only electronica or EDM and sort of that sound, but was more mixed and super free and, sort of blew up at the time of what we call blog house. So it's something that came up as well as like at the same time as MySpace and the entire digital space. And, certainly defining a very new sound, which kind of is embodied by Justice with this sort of mix of like hard French electronica with this rock and roll attitude. And Mehdi was not just an artist on the label. His first album was the first album that came out on Ed Banger.
I actually want to show our listeners a bit of one of his songs because it was really became kind of synonymous with DJ Mehdi. So let's take a listen to the song Signature. So DJ Mehdi, Tibo, really built a bridge between hip-hop and electro music. And at one point, documentary, you see Santa Gold even describing his sound as blacktronic. But not everyone was super happy with this, blending of genres. And we see that in the documentary, some of his previous collaborators not really understanding how he could have a foot in each world. Why do you think that was the case?
Well, there's a social component that's very important in this, is that overall the hip hop genre, and that's around the world, is mostly a black and brown musical genre, and since then it's been proven that everyone could create original hip hop, but at its early stages it's something that initiated in Bronx, and wherever you are in the world, it's mostly, initiated by the lower class, sort of poor people. Whereas the French electronica is mostly from an upper class sort, and mostly like white kids who produce this music. The notorious ones are like mostly sort of quote unquote a white music movement. Yeah. Whereas, oddly enough, the roots of the electronic musical movement and of hip hop sort of lie in the same family tree. So that's funk, soul, disco, and sort of these roots begat both hip hop in, let's say, in New York City in the US, and then Chicago house music and Detroit techno music. And they're all linked by, number one, the usage of like samplers and drum machines. But as they grew, they sort of became a part, specifically on the world stage. Whereas, in the US, hip hop and house music would kind of be mixed, and, everyone would understand these are like both, they're all three: hip hop, house, and techno music, ghetto music.
I'm afraid we've come to the end of the show. It's gone very quickly, and I want to thank you for coming and talking about DJ Mehdi Made in France. And also, the documentary is coming out on Arte on the 12th of September and on its YouTube channel. And as we were talking a bit previously, there's going to be an kind of event around the release of a documentary at Paris's La Gaieté Lyrique. There'll be a series of talks and concerts on the 14th of September, so please go and check it out. And before we go, just enough time to tell you about my album of the week from an electronic artist continuing DJ Mehdi's legacy, I'm sure you'll agree with me, of blending dance music and hip-hop. This is British producer and DJ Fred again, and he's back with a new album called 10 Days, with collaborations including Samfest, Skrillex, and Anderson .Paak. And we can hear this on the next song, Places to Be. Now, for more arts and culture, you can follow us on social media. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
Hello, I got places to be. Pretty, brown, got me weak in the knees. Slow up, you hold me down, I'm readjusting my speed. I've been gone too long, baby, y'all don't leave. Okay, I'm mashing, put up on the gas and running up in the sucker was nasty.